Hello and welcome guys. Today 98 of 100 days of code. We only have today and 2 more days left, so we're doing brilliant. I'm a bit under the weather at the moment, so sorry about my throat. I just woke up like this with a bit of a headache, but I'm gonna get this done and go into bed. So thank you so much for joining me again, guys. Really appreciate it as always. So let's continue where we were at. So we were getting back an individual user, so we're going to use that now. Okay, perfect. So where we left off was refactoring our application a little bit to take the GitHub context and separate it out a bit. So now we have this new Github Actions file, which contains the actions that we can perform and feeds this into the context just for better separation of concerns. So we will use them. So I just want to check in my GitHub context here. So yeah, we have all of our state being passed through anywhere where this GitHub context provider is wrapping that code, which is in our whole app.js, so all of the components here. Okay, so in our GitHub Actions we should have our search users function, which is an asynchronous function which is going and hitting the endpoint of all the users and passing through the parameters. So okay, cool. So just so these functions can be used elsewhere in the application, that's why we've added this export keyword in. Okay. So yeah, that all makes sense. First thing we want to do is to dispatch the set loading action type, which is just going to set the loading to true when we come in here after we've submitted this go button. Then we will assign the users variable to the awaited response of our search users function, which is found in our GitHub Actions, and we pass through the text here. And then we want to dispatch another user. Then we want to dispatch another action type, with this users that we've awaited from to come back from the search users function in the GitHub Actions that's been exported. And with that then we want to send it through to the get users dispatch function. So perfect. Okay, and then just set the text back to nothing. Okay. So yeah, get users is what we should be calling there. Yeah. Thanks a million for joining me, guys, and sorry I'm not as chatty as I normally am today. Okay. Okay. So let's have a look at what is going on. So, okay, I'll just search for Brad. Hit go. We see our loading. And then we get an 401 from our API. So cool, it is not getting that information back. So let's just reload. And type in Brad again. Okay. So I think what we should do is fire up our Postman and see if we can make this work in Postman. So I'll fire up my Postman agent here and see what happens. Let's see. Postman. Open. Okay. Postman. Okay, so just have to figure out what is going on here. I'm trying to open Postman, but okay, now a few of them are opening. Cool. So still waiting for this here. Postman. Just open. Por favor, mi amigo. Yes. Postman will be very handy now because I know that in order to pass a token to localhost, it must be the downloaded version of Postman, because last time we used the online one and it told us that, so we did download it. So I don't know why it doesn't like me today. Postman has always been a great tool. Never had issues with it before, apart from this 100 days of coding challenge. So it could be a new update, it could be something on my end, you know. But just to keep in mind, I never have had problems with Postman before. So, but. Is it opening anywhere? Doesn't appear to be. Okay, so let's just have a look at the code and see what could this be. So three days ago, was that soon? So I'll say commit changes. Let's go back and look at the previous revisions. Okay, so the previous revision was just that, it wasn't there. So that is correct because we have already hit this URL. So okay. just close that. So let's see what else he does for the time being. Is there anything not saved? All looks saved. Okay, so user search is where we were at. Okay, so when we click that button, we should pass in the event here. We should prevent the default behavior. It's an asynchronous event. We're waiting or awaiting for the search users to run from the actions file and to assign it to users, which then we're passing through to get users as the payload. So okay. What about this set alert? Do we have this defined? Set alert. Let's go to our alert context. Set alert, yeah. A message and a type. Okay, so let's just go back here. Set alert. And we have a message and a type being passed through there, so okay. And this is coming from our alert context. Yeah, okay. So let's just keep watching for a moment. Sorry. Okay, so we're also going to move the get user and get users into the action file as well, Github Actions. So we'll just say and keep doing and think about this as we're going, and hopefully something will make sense. So we'll go to our GitHub context here and we'll grab both of our functions, get user repos and get user. Okay, so I will close these up just for ease of grabbing. So now I'll bring that into the GitHub Actions. And we just want to export both of these as well, so we can use it elsewhere. So else, if okay, cool. So now we've moved them in here for the time being, great. So now we don't need to pass these functions through the provider in the GitHub context, which is down here. So we will remove get user and get user repos. And we also won't be calling set loading anymore, so we can get rid of that. Clear users we will also get rid of, because we'll dispatch that directly from the user search. So you'll see it all come together now in a moment, and let's see what happens. So we can also get rid of it down here. So I can get rid of these declarations as well. So now we've cleaned this up a lot. So basically all we have now in here is our state, and we're passing the whole state down, yeah, and the dispatch actions. So perfect, we'll save that and continue and see how all this ties together. So now in our user search, we don't want to bring in some of this stuff anymore. We're going to do it differently. So perfect, we have our users and our dispatch coming in. And then here where we are calling clear users, which is down on that clear button, we can do it slightly differently now. So we'll say it's a function that we want to run, and this is going to be dispatch. So we want to dispatch a function here, so we'll make this an arrow function. We want to call dispatch, and we want to pass through the type of clear users. So we'll pass through the type, and the type is clear underscore users. So perfect. So now what this should do is still dispatch the same function. So if we go to the dispatch here from Github Context, we can see, and our actions, sorry, we're pulling in our actions here. Our GitHub reducer and our initial state, yeah. So if we go to our actions, this is where we have all of our actions, and here we should have our clear user in the reducer file, yes. So here, clear users, and all this does is return the state and sets the users back to an empty array. So clears them. Okay. So let's open up our, so we still need to do some updating here, it seems, which is okay. GitHub Actions. So let's just go to pages and user. So pages and user, cool. And we want to bring in these actions so we can actually use them directly from the actions file. So we will do that. So we will import get user, Okay, so import get user repos from so it should be from /context / our actions. Okay. So now we're no longer passing down get user like this through our context and our GitHub context. If we go back to our GitHub context here, we see that all we have is our state and dispatch. So this is all that can be accessed. And we have our other pieces of data that we want to provide, like our functions, captured in the actions file. So we'll just change this so that it all links up now. So we'll go back to our user.jsx and we will get rid of our get user because we're not getting it like this anymore. Okay guys, so we are going to implement this now. So yes, this is where we want to be. So let's just close down our side navigation for the moment. Okay. So we don't want our get users function because that's no longer being passed down from the context. Neither is loading get user repos or repos. What we're passing through is our state and our dispatch now. So we'll just put user loading. We can pass loading in here. So loading and repos. Okay. So don't know why that is at the moment, but let's find out. So then in here we also have this use effect, which is calling our get user and our get user repos. What we want to do instead is get the user data from the actions file instead. Yeah. Okay. So in here we'll create a new function. We'll say const get user data, and we want this to be an asynchronous function. Okay, so in here now we will dispatch an action. So we'll dispatch the set loading action. So we will dispatch the type of set loading. So it will start to set the loading spinner to true. And we'll actually do this before we do this asynchronous call, so the loading spinner can be there. Before we, as we go in to do this, we can dispatch this function. This should just be dispatch. So then we want to define a constant in here that we're going to grab this data back with. So we'll say const user data is equal to the awaited results of get user, and we want to pass in the params.login, and then we want to dispatch the type of get, and I should have added the curly parentheses in here as well, because we're passing it in this object. So with the type and the action, so we want to run get user in this case, and also pass in the payload. So we will do that, we'll say payload, which is going to be the user data. Perfect. So what we can do is copy something similar for the user repo data. So here we have our user data function, which is inside this get user data asynchronous function, because we can't make the use effect asynchronous. So that's why we have to find this separate function within the use effect that this can be asynchronous, and we await for that result. So then what we want to do is also do something similar for the user repo data. So we'll copy this, paste it down here and say user repo data, and then this is what will be passed into this dispatch function, and we need to change the action type because now it's going to be get user repos. So let's just make sure that that's what that is called over in our reducer. So you have clear user set, loading, get repos, okay, and get user. So it needs to be an exact match. So perfect. So we will instead paste that in there. I just named that incorrectly. So get repos and get user. Yep, okay, cool. And we will save that. Okay, so just listening here. Okay. So we just want to add the things we're going to need in here to our array at the bottom that says we are dependent on this. So we're dependent on a params.login in this particular function, and we're also dependent on our dispatch. So perfect.